Welcome to my two-part series of what I actually used as a first-time mom. For the first part of the series today, I'll be sharing things I actually used during my home birth. So today I will be sharing things that I used during my birth. I know every birth is completely different, so this is not a one-size-fits-all list, just what worked best for me and just to give you some ideas of what you might need or may not need. I had a home birth. If you're interested in seeing the story of my home birth, I made a video of me and Austin sharing the story. So if you'd like to watch that, I'll just link the video in the description below. I had a home birth with a midwife. My midwife provided a lot of stuff. She also provided me with a list of things that I needed. If you're having a home birth with a midwife, I would definitely ask. I'm sure she'll just give it to you anyways, probably around your 36-week check-in. But she'll give you a list of things that you need that are specific to how she works with her clients. Then these are just things that I used on top of that list that I found helpful. I'm sure some of these things would be helpful during a hospital birth or even a free birth, whatever type of birth you want, but just keep in mind every birth is different. And for my postpartum, I chose to stay home and just really use that time to bond and be present with my baby. So these are things that were supportive during that time of the first 40 days, specifically for me. We're on an exercise ball bouncing. I figured that I would never get this video made if I didn't have her in it. This is probably what my videos are going to look like over the next bit, and I'm just keeping things real. Okay, so we'll start with labor. The things that I used, I put a list on my phone so I do not forget. The first one I wrote down was liquid IV. It's so important, especially in a home birth, to stay hydrated and nourished so you have the energy for your birth. I made a Laborade. I had all sorts of healthy electrolytes and food on hand, and I had a really long labor and I threw up the whole first day. If you're interested, like I said, I'll leave the link of the full story to my birth below. But none of the natural things that I had or had made were staying down, and I ended up having just one liquid IV, and that was the only hydration I could keep down, and my friend ended up bringing another one, and those were really helpful. So I would definitely recommend getting liquid IVs. I've actually used them postpartum as well, just with breastfeeding. That's been super helpful, just staying hydrated with the amount I'm feeding my baby. I think they taste good. I didn't want to use them originally because they have sugar and high amounts of cereal. Watch out. Sorry, my dog. They have sugar and higher amounts of sodium, but they honestly worked the best out of any of the different electrolytes I had and the Laborade I had made. So I would for sure recommend at least having one or two liquid IVs on hand, if not more. I know Costco has a big pack of them for a pretty good price. Another thing that was so helpful was I had rose water and hydrosols on hand to spray me with when I got too hot during labor. Austin or my mom would spritz me with that. I had a neroli, a lavender, a peppermint, and a white rose. Those were super nice. I would get really hot during contractions. I would tell them I was hot and they'd come spritz me with the hydrosols, and it was really nice to have some cooling spray, like misty spray, with some essential oils or aromatherapy that can help. Neroli is good for stress and anxiety and calming down your nervous system. Rose is just beautiful all around. It smells really nice. It's a beautiful medicine to open the heart, which is really important during labor. Peppermint's good for nausea. Lavender is good for relaxation. So I just had all of those on hand, and they would spray me with those whenever I was feeling hot or overwhelmed, and it was really nice. So a fan, I had this fan, which was so nice. It cools you off so well. I got it in Sedona. It's one of the African made fans. I think it comes from one of the same companies that makes all the African woven baskets, which are really beautiful. You can find them at natural food stores. I'm not sure where you could find these, but maybe look online for an African made fan. But this was amazing during birth. It feels so good right now. It just has such a strong fan. And that was so nice for Austin or my mom to fan me with during labor. 10 out of 10 would recommend that fan if you are somebody that gets hot easily like me. I had a wooden comb. I'll just share a picture right here because I gave it to my sister for her birth. That was really helpful, especially when I had to get a hydration IV because I was throwing up so much and I wasn't able to move around during the contractions. So I just squeezed the comb. I know it's supposed to trick your brain and kind of sidetracked it from the pain you're getting from the contractions. You could use it for like any sort of pain relief, really, like if you have cramps or if you're healing from an injury, you can just squeeze the comb and it'll kind of distract you a little bit from the pain. I have some friends that have tried that method and they said that did not work at all, but I found it did help for me. It didn't make the pain go away, but it helped it be a little more bearable and distract me from the pain. We lit a bunch of candles during my labor, especially in the evening, and I had salt lamps when the sun was down. It set a really nice mood, but a good reason for having candles when it's dark is to help your melatonin release better. A lot of times when I turn fluorescent light or have blue light, that can block our melatonin receptors and trick our brain to think it's still day. And melatonin helps progress labor. So that's why a lot of people have babies at night. So if you're laboring at home at night, just light candles, use a salt lamp, just don't use blue or fluorescent lighting. That will be really helpful. And it's also nice for when the baby comes out to be in a peaceful environment instead of bright light, because keep in mind they've been in the womb for so long. Salt lamps are nice because when babies do see light in the womb, it is red because they're seeing through like your skin and your blood and your muscles, so they see a faint red light. And so I think that the salt lamps are very similar to that lighting. I had affirmations hanging on my wall that some of my sisters wrote me during my blessing way, and those were really nice and supportive when things would get hard. I would look up at the affirmations. There was one that said the only way out is through. And that really stuck with me because when you're in labor, you can't rewind it. You can't stop it. Like it is so true. The only way out is through. You have to keep going. And when I was feeling like scared or nervous or just in a lot of pain, I would look up at the affirmations, and there's a lot of comfort in that. And they're basically free to make. You can have your close friends write you the affirmations. You can look online for some affirmations and just make a cute wall hanging. I hung some string through them and hung them up on my wall, and those were really nice to have. I used some herbs during my labor to help progress my labor. This is totally optional, but I used castor oil, cotton root tincture, blue cohosh tincture, and black cohosh tincture. My midwife made me a little concoction out of those different herbs and castor oil. Those really helped progress my labor because my labor was taking so long. I did have meconium in my waters, so we thought it was important to speed things up, and that really helped a lot. It was more painful because a lot of those herbs work as an herbal oxytocin, which is comparable to Pitocin that they use in the hospital to progress your contractions. So it did make contractions more intense and more painful, but I really believed it helped speed up my labor because it was taking so long. There is a little apothecary in Salt Lake that I love, and they were able to just give me like half tinctures of blue cohosh and black cohosh, and my midwife provided the cotton root. I'm not for sure, but I think she said only midwives have access to get that herb because it's such a potent herb, but I would definitely look into that if that is something that you're interested in. And then I had underpads to have spread out on the floor for if I was bleeding, if I had to go back and forth to the bathroom, and then we spread them all out over my bed when I actually had the baby, and I was amazed because so much liquid comes out of you and none of it got on my bed. I think like a drop got on my bed. So I would definitely have underpads on hand. The midwife might provide some, but I would buy a pack of, you could get underpads like kind of by Depends, or you can get puppy pads in the animal section for puppies. But those were awesome. I got reusable underpads as well, and we did use those during birth, and I kind of regret that because it took like a few days to wash them. Austin had to wash them, and he had to soak them and strip them and put them through like probably 6 rounds of laundry. So I definitely recommend using the disposable ones during birth, but we loved using the reusable ones postpartum, and we still use them for changing our baby. So I would still recommend those. I would just use the disposable ones during birth when everything's coming out just to save you from all the washing that you have to do. And then things that I didn't use during labor, I made a playlist. I didn't use it. I just was not thinking straight. I was in another world. They asked me if I wanted music, and I just like couldn't even think enough to, like, I don't think it would have made a difference, honestly. Laborade, I felt like Laborade was really helpful during my pregnancy, like helping me when I was sick during my pregnancy. I had 2 jars of Laborade in my fridge to drink during labor, and it just made me throw up so much because there's citrus in it. I kind of could keep coconut water down, but honestly, like I said, liquid IV was the best. It's the easiest. It's just a powder you can pour in the water. So I would just save yourself the hassle of making Laborade unless you really want to, and use liquid IV, or I know Ultima Replenish is a good one. Redmond salts, but I used too much Ultima Replenish and the Redmond salts during pregnancy that I started getting sick of it, and like the taste of it was gross to me. So liquid IV was the best for my labor, honestly. Yeah, and I wrote down health foods in my did not use list. Yeah, I had so many healthy things prepared for my labor, and I couldn't keep any of them down. The only things I could keep down was milkshakes, popsicles, and liquid IV. And then the next day when I was feeling a little better, I could eat some like chicken and some cheese, which is healthy, but honestly, just have foods on hand that are easy to eat, that sound good to you, that are nourishing and dense, whether it's healthy or not, because we're not in labor our whole lives. I think it's more important to have the energy and nourishment, whether it's from the healthiest foods or not, during labor to get your baby out safely is way more important than focusing on foods that really won't support you, even though they're healthy and they would be supportive in other environments or timing. During labor, like just eat the ice cream, eat the cheesecake, eat the burger, eat whatever you need to get through your labor and trust yourself on that. I promise you that's the best thing you could do. So moving on to postpartum. This is what I used in the first 6 weeks of my postpartum that I found were really helpful. So I had a Sitz bath. I tore pretty good, and so I sat in a Sitz bath every day, sometimes a couple times a day, and I had an herbal blend that I had made with my friend in advance, but I know you can order several different types of Sitz baths online, especially that are specific to postpartum, It's a blend of herbs and salts that help you heal through your yoni and your perineum and your bum. It was really helpful during healing. It's a little basin that you can put on the toilet. So you basically sit on the toilet and soak your bum in this herbal tea that you've made. Like, it's a strong herbal concoction. You like let it soak for a couple hours, put it in the Sitz bath and sit on it for up to 20 minutes a couple times a day for the best benefit. I think it's really great to have even if you don't tear. Your vagina and your bum go through so much during birth and postpartum that it's just good to have on hand, especially if you get hemorrhoids or if you tear or if there's anything going on down there. So my cousin gave me a Frida set for postpartum. It had the Frida boy shorts. It had the spray bottle. It's like a little bidet that you spray yourself with. It had a witch hazel foam. It had the cooling pads. And it had some witch hazel pads. And I was so grateful for that, especially because I tore. She didn't tear at all, and so she didn't have any need for it, but I was so grateful that she gave it to me after she had her baby because I used it all. I used everything in it. The cooling pads were really nice, and I loved the boy shorts. I honestly would order a couple extra packs of the boy shorts for my next baby just because you can put pads in them and wear them, and they're really comfy and they're cuter than like a Depends that you wear. I also had Depends. You'll probably need more Depends and more pads than you expect. You can also use the Underpads during postpartum as well if you want time to air out and not wear anything down there. That was really helpful. I feel like that helps promote healing, and it's just nice not always wearing something over your yoni. It's good to let her breathe. So I used both the disposable and the reusable underpads, and I used Depends, I used pads, but I really loved the Frida boy shorts, and I loved the whole set that it came with. I'll post a link to that as well. For healing my tear, I used comfrey salve, a silver ointment, and a calendula salve and witch hazel, and I just alternated between those 4 things, and I found that it was really helpful. I didn't ever use the witch hazel pads until weeks later when I had a hemorrhoid, and that was terrible, so that helped with that. For the hemorrhoid, I had some homeopathic suppositories as well as this cream called Dr. Butler's cream, and I felt like they somewhat helped. They weren't like immediate relief, but they did help over time. But the thing that I found that helped the best was eating lots and lots and lots of fruit. I would make a fruit salad almost every day and just devour fruit, and that was really helpful. During my postpartum, I was in the most pain that I've literally ever been in, and my friend had given me this pack. It had Arnica cream and an Arnica homeopathy, the little sugar pills, and I have never used that before, and I started using that, and I didn't ever have to use ibuprofen. Every time I was in pain, I would take the Arnica tablets. I went through 2 bottles of it, and I got a third that I didn't use all of, but I would get like a 2 or 3 pack of the Arnicas because it was amazing, especially if you don't want to use Tylenol or ibuprofen or any of that stuff. And I just wanted to avoid any medications, especially with breastfeeding. So the Arnica was such a lifesaver. I'm so grateful for my friend that gave it to me because I would have never thought of it, and it helped me so much. For tinctures, I used yarrow and motherwort. The motherwort helped a lot with the after pains, the cramping that you get. This was my first baby, so my cramping wasn't that bad, but I would get a little bit of cramping when I was breastfeeding because my uterus was just shrinking back. The motherwort really helped with any of that pain. I felt like it helped with pain all around. I know motherwort is really good for anxiety as well. And the yarrow is good for bleeding and blood. You can put it on wounds topically, but I just took it internally and I felt like that helped a lot with the bleeding. I only bled for about 4 to 5 weeks. I don't know if that's typical or not, but I felt like I just bled until I was done, and I felt like the yarrow helped with that. Heard that yarrow could potentially help with hemorrhaging as well. So I think yarrow tincture is really good to have on hand. If you live near the mountains that grow yarrow, it's really easy to make a yarrow tincture. Me and my mom have made several tinctures from yarrow that we've just foraged, and I used so much of that during my postpartum. Tallow was the best thing. I love tallow in general. I use it on my skin and my face, and I used it on my baby. I used it as nipple cream. I was really dry immediately postpartum. Like my hands were kind of cracking, my feet were cracking, my lips were really dry. Everything was so dry immediately postpartum. I'm not sure why, but I used tallow. That was the only thing I used, and it's the only thing we still use in this family, and it's the best. I had a few nipple creams that my friend had given me, and I honestly didn't need any of them. Breastfeeding wasn't very painful for me, but the first week it was a little sore, and I ended up just using my tallow more than anything. Having comfortable pants and comfortable underwear is a must. Nothing that's tight over the womb area. Hopefully you should have these from pregnancy, because your belly is bigger during pregnancy. Your belly is still going to be stretched out. I felt like things being tight over my belly postpartum was even more uncomfortable. Got any pregnancy underwear until I was postpartum. So if you're pregnant and feel like you don't really need pregnancy underwear and your old underwear works fine, I would just get the pregnancy underwear anyways, because that's what I did. And then I had to order some pregnancy underwear because I just felt like my old underwear was too uncomfortable postpartum. And having just really comfortable pants. Most of the time I was just naked, honestly, during my postpartum, but when people came over to visit, just having some comfortable pants, and if I ever had to get up and go around the house or leave the house. So I got a nice pair of sweats and just some comfy yoga pants. My Indigo Luna pants were my favorite during pregnancy, and they're still my favorite during postpartum. They didn't stretch out at all when I was pregnant, and they fit me perfect now. So that was really great. Vitamin C and a high protein diet are really important for healing. My midwife recommended taking like 10,000 milligrams a day of vitamin C, and I felt like that just helped me heal pretty quickly. When I was in it, it felt like it was taking forever. After about 3 weeks, I started feeling so much better. And I think eating a high protein diet and lots of vitamin C was really helpful. I kept taking the supplements I took throughout pregnancy, and I still am taking them to this day because I'm breastfeeding. It's just so important to stay nourished and strong, especially when your body's healing postpartum. So I love the book The First 40 Days. It has so many good recipes, and it has so much valuable information of how to take care of yourself 40 days after birth, how to have others help take care of you, how to ask for things. Has information of like what's happening with your body postpartum, what's happening with your baby. It's really good to have on hand. It's a really beautiful book that you can just have on your coffee table, and the recipes are really good. We still make the recipes all the time. My favorite was the chicken and date soup. It has the jujube dates in it that are really high in vitamin C. It's really supportive of healing. I made a bunch of that and froze that before birth, but then we also, like, if anybody asked if they could make something, it's an easy recipe, and I had the dates on hand, so I'd give them the dates and they would just make me that soup. We also love the fried rice. We make it once or twice a week still because it's so easy and yummy and filling. I would definitely recommend this book for everyone that's having a baby, and it's a great gift to give to people having a baby. I have a Berkey water filter, and before I got that, I would just fill up my water there's this place in Salt Lake called Water and Wellness where they provide really great alkaline water, hydrogen water, different types of water that you can fill your jugs up with. So I had a water container, like a water vessel to hold that. And we just brought that water upstairs to our room and we would just fill it up with the Berkey. And that was really nice to have water immediately on hand postpartum because you're so thirsty, you need to stay hydrated. And it was just in the room, so Austin could fill it up for me real quick, or if anybody was visiting, they could just fill up my water while they were in there. That was really nice to have on hand. If you have the option to have a water vessel in your room to fill up your water that you're drinking, I would definitely recommend. A humidifier was really helpful as well, just because I was so dry. And when babies are born, their skin just kind of gets cracky because they've left the womb. They've always been in the amniotic fluid and they come into the dry air, especially Utah. Utah air is terrible in the winter. And even though I left her vernix and everything on her for over a month, but her skin still was adjusting and peeling and changing as she came onto earth. And so the humidifier was really helpful and it helped. I noticed she got stuffy around like the first or second week, and that helped with her breathing. It helped with my skin. These are things I didn't use personally during postpartum. I didn't really use nipple pads. I got some nice organic ones and I just didn't leak that much. I thought everyone leaked and I didn't leak, and so I didn't have to use the nipple pads, but I would still have them on hand just in case because I know everyone's different. Some people leak more, some people don't. So I really wanted to get period underwear for postpartum, and I ordered from this little small shop called Mana Mama, and she makes these really cute period undies and they're tie-dye and cute little patterns. And so I ordered a pack of them and they were pretty expensive, and sadly they never came in the mail. She didn't respond to any of my emails, so I had to file a dispute. And I went on her Instagram and so many people were commenting like the same thing was happening. So I probably would not recommend ordering from her. I really don't feel like I needed them. I liked the Frida boy shorts that are disposable, and the first few days you're just bleeding a lot. Somebody else would have to be washing them. It would just be a lot more extra work to do, and it was just nice having the disposable ones. And I really only needed the Depends and the Frida underwear for the first week, maybe 2 weeks. But then I just started wearing regular underwear with pads. I guess during that time, if you have some period underwear that you love, you can use them, but I don't think they were necessary. I didn't use them, even though I thought they would be something I really would want. A belly wrap. We got a belly wrap. It's like a really long piece of fabric that you tie up your belly. I ended up not using it because I felt like it put a lot of pressure on my belly, and I talked to my midwife about it and she was like, just use your intuition, like where do you feel like your uterus goes? And for me, it felt like my uterus was being pushed down, and some people love them. And I kind of felt like it wasn't the most supportive of my body. For me personally, I felt like by the time I had like tied it up and wrapped it on, like it just wasn't worth all that effort, and I didn't feel like it was the best. It was just like pushing on my uterus when I was just needing my body to heal on its own. Me personally, I felt like it wasn't the best thing. I probably wouldn't spend money on that again. But I know some people love them, so just use your intuition, do some research on both ends and see what feels best for you. I got a breast pump through my insurance, and I did not use it at all during my first 6 weeks because I just did not want to get nipple confusion with the baby, and I didn't want to get an oversupply. My midwife is also a lactation specialist, and she's part of the La Leche League, and she was telling me how it's just best during the first 6 weeks to not use a binky, to not use a bottle, and to not pump, and that can help you regulate to exactly what your baby needs, so you're not producing an oversupply or an undersupply. I listened to a podcast by a lady that was on the La Leche League, and she was talking about the similar thing, and she was saying that our bodies are biologically created to feed our babies for 7 years. So if you honor that for 6 weeks and not pump and just allow yourself to regulate with your baby, that you could be able to provide your baby for 7 years of milk. And then if you do want to pump after, say you want to donate milk or you want to save milk so you can go work or have a babysitter and have somebody feed your baby, then you can start pumping after the 6 weeks because your body's already regulated with your baby. But I thought that was really interesting because I thought that I was just going to start pumping right away. Like I was saying earlier with the tallow, I never used nipple cream. I actually just gave it to my sister because she's having a baby, and I just used the tallow if I needed it. I had a perineum salve and spray, I think from the Earth Mama brand. I think I tried this spray a little bit. It was nice and cooling, but I was just using all the other stuff like the comfrey and the calendula. I never used the Earth Mama stuff as much. I used it like once or twice, and so I ended up gifting that away as well. And for the final thing, I saved my placenta and I got it encapsulated. I wasn't like really wanting to take my placenta, but I wanted to have it on hand just in case I experienced some intense postpartum depression or anxiety. I've heard crazy stories about how it's really helped support women at times of like dark postpartum depression where they're unsafe to be alone with themselves or alone with other people, and it completely reversed that by taking their placenta. I've been prone to depression in the past, and I just thought it would be good to have on hand. I ended up not really having any depression at all, which I'm so grateful for, and I have not taken even one of my placenta capsules, and that's okay. I think I'll just save them until we have a forever home and bury them under a tree so my baby can have a way to connect with her placenta. I think that would be so beautiful. I would love to have that for all of my babies, just a placenta tree. I think that would be really nice to have. And so even though it's ground dehydrated and put in capsules, I still want to just keep it on hand in case I ever need it or want it for any reason. But I personally did not use it. I did not take it. So that's just my experience with it. I know some people swear by it. They say it like helps a lot with anxiety and depression, and that is really awesome. If it does, I would love to hear stories about that. If anyone has stories about that, you should comment or share that with me because I think placentas are so cool, and I'm super glad that I saved and preserved mine. I also had a board, like a canvas board, that we put my placenta on after my labor, and I have a really beautiful framed picture of the placenta now. So those are the things I had and used during my birth and labor, and things that I didn't. Thank you so much for watching. It would mean so much if you could like and comment on this video or subscribe to my channel if you found this helpful. I will be creating a part 2 to this series where I share all the things I used and didn't use for my first days with my baby.